are live. We are live with Los, who is a great member of the comic book community. Los, you want to give a little introduction?
Yeah. So, thanks, Matt, for having me. I've been in the community for 3-4 years now, or at least making videos. I chatted and did stuff like that, but never actually made videos until, we could kind of relate, but Reggie, I remember when he had his first, this is going to actually date me. I think it was his like 100 or 500 subscriber contest. And I finally did a video on it. And it's basically, what do you collect or why do you collect? And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do it. And I did a video, and you can tell I was nervous as all hell. Just was not comfortable talking to a camera. So it's pretty funny. But once that happened, I got a bunch of members of the community who reached out to me, and they're like, hey man, that's awesome. Keep going, keep with it. And, since then I just kept making videos here and there. I, try to do it when I can, married, 3 kids and a full-time job. So sometimes it gets, a little hectic for me, but and I'm just grateful to be here, man. I try to jump on as many things as I can, try to shout out as many people as I can. I know I'm not a big channel, but I'm just in it to have fun and just meet more members of the community.
You know what, buddy? You're in it for the absolute right reasons. You just like to have fun. Like, some people do well with the YouTube games. People like me, I just like interacting with people. And I'm going to interact with some people that are in the chat right now. And here is the great Adam Durr that was on this show just last week. Yep. Steve White. Speaking of Steve White will be on here in 2 weeks. Okay.
Awesome.
Not everyone is on the channel, but it seems that we have a lot. We have Jim Bartman on here. We have Trev, the shipping guru. Trev. Awesome guy. Awesome stickers. Trev, I just have this sticker right here on my desk. So every time I see your name, I just think of that sticker. And the great OG. And listen, OG, your ears had to have been burning because you were being talked about off screen here. So it's great seeing you there. Steve. The great Doug Bratton. He has a pretty cool older brother. Okay. This is the great Dave Bratton's kid brother. Doug's a great person in his own right. I just like giving him a hard time. And here's our good buddy, Wellbore. Actually, where's Doug at? Okay, I'm pretty excited for Doug because I have a feeling that issue 4 of Isolation is getting ready to drop really soon. Nice. And he's been writing that comic book, been doing a fabulous job. And here's Michael. Good to see you.
What's up, Mike?
My buddy Nigel, okay, the ambassador of the comic book community. He gets around. I mean, every day I see it post, and he's on an airplane somewhere. And I think we have caught up on the chat. So I want to tell people about how I first started realizing that you were around. I started following Reggie Collects about July, August 2019. And I would see a guy in a chat there, and you would be in there quite often. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, he did this not home makeover, but a comic book room makeover. And some people know I've seen the videos where I've upgraded this room, whatever. But you yourself have a fabulous room. And you, I think, came in second. I don't know what the order was.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. But I think that those picture frames above you, are those from Collector's Resource? The ones above your left shoulder?
So
or were those?
I got these. I had these before the room makeover. Okay. I'm not sure where I got them from. The funny thing is I looked it up again because I bought them a long time ago. And I sent it to Burke, Family 54 Comics. So Steve asked me where I got them from. And I looked them up for him. I was like, hey, I got them from this place. So if you want, take a look. I got the 3. They have single ones as well. But yeah, I mean, I it was something that I had for a while, and I love those things. But yeah, they might be from that. I believe the sticker for the company is still in the back of them. So if I pull them off, it has the label of it, but it might be from there.
Yep. Didn't say hi to Jackson Roy Kirk, great person. Jackson, I'm telling you, brother, watch Picard season 3. It is phenomenal. Jackson Roy Kirk is a big Star Trek fan.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't care for season 1 and season 2 of Picard. Honestly, I don't think I finished either season. Season 3, I promise you, Jackson Roy Kirk, you will like that. But I saw something about Dave's kid brother. Yes, here it is. Sorry, I do want to get back to the frames, but Isolation 4, it will begin to weave threads from the first 3 issues together. All right, I'm excited about this. But now,
nice.
I did want to bring up one of the really cool things behind your head, and I mentioned it to you before the show started. When you were doing your room tour, there was a couple things that caught my eye. One, you share your comic book room with your better half. Yeah. And I'm amazed that a wife allows you to have that comic book room in her office. So kudos on you to getting her to agree to that. Most wives are like, no way.
Yeah. No, we there's this kind of like a column that kind of separates the rooms, and the column is on the smaller half of my side. So my side is smaller than hers. So she has a larger portion. And I'm kind of like back here tucked in this corner, but it works. It's still obviously messy, and there's still some things I want to do. Maybe some shelving up here that I want to put up. I did have some before, but I didn't put it up the proper way, and they actually fell. No books were damaged in the process, but a statue was damaged, so that kind of sucked.
Oh yeah, that's never good. But you know what? That tells me something about you, though. One, you're diplomatic, okay? Getting a wife to agree to that. So kudos to you. But there was a couple other things that jumped out at me. You've got a lot of really good books. I mean, absolute stunners, okay?
Thank you.
One of my favorite covers is a Neil Adams cover. It's Batman 227, and it's right above your finger, okay? Super good book. You had him sign it, did you not?
Yes.
Now,
so I bought that. I want to say I bought it raw, and I got it signed by Neil Adams. When did I get that signed? 2016.
Okay. So that's going to lead up to our main conversation here about comic book conventions. Was that at a comic convention?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Listen, we just had a conversation with Steve White about comic book conventions, and I've never been to one. Now, we were talking about, let's talk about conventions, and I almost said, well, we just had a conversation, but you know what? It's always good to have someone else's point of view. So I'm going to ask you, can you tell that story about how you had Neil Adams sign it?
So Neil Adams is he's tricky to say the least. He was a great guy, and I've heard stories that he could have been a little moody at times, but the times that I met him, I didn't have any issues with him. He seemed to be a great guy. I know I have the 227. I had Green Lantern 76, and I had Superman 233. So I had the holy trinity of his big books, other than Batman 251, which I do have, but never got it signed because he passed away. And so I was able to get those signed, but this one, I want to say in 20. Thank you, Tina. I appreciate it.
Good job, Tina.
And I want to say in 2016, that might have been in that MegaCon, actually, in Florida.
Oh, okay.
I was down there for family vacation, and as a birthday gift, my brother bought me tickets to the convention. So one day of the con. So normally I only go one day in cons just because one, it's expensive. Two, sometimes the negotiation with the wife is, hey, you can go one day, and the rest of the time, is family time. So it's like understood, all right? Because it is a lot. It is a lot.
You're a
2-3 day
diplomat,
con.
man.
It's a lot. So, but this time, because it was my birthday, he's like, hey, one day will be with the family at the con, because my family never really been to cons, and my wife is not a big comic book person. So we went and had a good time. But then the second day was basically for me. It was just gonna be my day by myself to go. And I remember having this book and getting it signed. I met him, and we had a decent conversation. He spoke to me about this book is one of his favorites, other than 251. Is one of his favorite books that he did cover wise. Oddly enough, Superman 233 is one of his least favorite books because he had to extend Superman's leg because they wanted to fit the kryptonite in between his legs, and DC was like, "Hey,
it
just
does
extend
look
his
a
leg."
little wonky. We have to admit that.
Yeah, so that's why that one leg looks extended long, and he cannot stand that cover. But I got him to sign that one anyway.
Did you?
So, money talks. So
he's signing, right?
yes, and like I said, and he was a good guy, and I told him that
Hey, Brian.
that I had this to get
Buddy
signed.
Lager style.
I already had the Green Lantern 76 signed, and he's like, "Oh, you know what you need to get now?" And I'm like, "Yeah, the Superman 233." And he's like, "They should sell these as a triple pack." I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be nice, but they don't."
Yeah, no. They don't sell Bronze Age, grails.
Yeah,
in triple packs.
I was like, no, they don't. But yeah, like I said, I had no issues with him the times that I met him. He seemed pleasant. He didn't mind having conversation with people and kind of telling some stories. But that's not always the case. I've heard other things with Neil Adams. So, but from my experience, I had no bad things to say about him.
I went to LCS. This one's a little further away from a house than the normal ones I go to. I have about 6 that are within an hour. This is like an hour and a half. Anyhow, I met one of the guys working there. First time I ever met him. And I started, we just started doing what we do. We started doing comic book talks. And I found out he used to draw. He's an artist for DC back in the 80s and early 90s. And I was asking him all kinds of questions about the people who were there. And I get to Adams. And man, if what this guy says, Neil Adams is really moody, as you put it. And he was not a real big fan of him. I'll be honest with you. And the guy I was talking to, a great guy, very personable, high energy. And, sometimes you don't know how it goes. It might have been Neil Adams was just trying to give him advice on how to improve. And some people don't take that well, or I've heard Neil Adams can be, a character.
Well, Neil Adams is very, take it easy, Doug. He's very blunt. Like he will come on and say what it is. He will not sugarcoat anything. And I think that's one of the things where I remember seeing like a documentary before, and I forgot what it was. It was some kind of comic thing. And he basically told Frank Miller that he can't draw worth the hell. He was like, "You should not draw. You suck." He's like, yeah, he told him, he's like, "This is garbage." He flat out just told him. And that's Neil Adams. Like, he's just going to be open and upfront with you. And maybe some people, don't really like that too much, but that was the way he was. And honestly, judging by his art, he kind of had the right to say certain things.
Like, Neil was one of the best. I mean, without a doubt. But you can't tell, but off camera, on my wall, I'm looking at my copy of Wolverine #1, the miniseries. A classic Frank Miller cover. Wolverine's doing a finger thing. How do you Yeah, right behind it. How do you say that guy sucks?
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
It's pretty funny. I mean, I guess he submitted some, some things, and he asked him, he's like, yeah, this is horrible. He was like, just don't draw anymore. I was like, wow.
Neil Adams did a cover of Conan the Barbarian. Frog Boy, Mark, who does the Frog Boy paintings, okay, on Instagram. Yep. He right now is in the middle. He's almost done with this. I think it's Conan 36. It's a Neil Adams cover.
Okay.
It's an amazing piece. A lot of people don't even know that it exists. Yeah. But, he was great on Batman. Neil Adams is great, whatever he does. He's a very good artist. But for him to be like that, maybe, if you're the best of the best, maybe you got to realize other people just won't be quite as good as you. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that they're not very good.
Yeah. No. And it's funny. I mean, I'm not sure how many people here are like baseball fans or any kind of sports fans.
Pirates. Hey, your Boston Red Sox did me a favor or did my team a favor. Put the Pirates in first place because they beat the Brewers today.
Yeah, they did.
Are you a Red Sox
fan? Yes and no.
Or your local team.
So it is, but my favorite team growing up and everything was the Mets. I've always been a Mets fan. I'm originally from New York. So,
yep.
So I've been a Mets fan, but moving here, I don't mind. I root for the Red Sox. It's local team. I go for them, except when they play the Mets.
Yeah, exactly. Like the 1986 World Series. Yes.
Yep. So coming from the whole like being the best and like telling people that they kind of suck or whatever, and them not being able to live up to that. The same thing is true for like Barry Bonds, right? He was a great player, excellent hitter, but when he was like the hitting coach for like the Marlins or wherever it was, he was awful, right? They were like, he's a really bad hitting coach because he was so good and he can see things that most people couldn't. And he's like, well, how come you can't see that? How come you can't see the turn on the ball? How come you can't see the stitches? And they're like, dude, we're not you. Like, that's the whole
Exactly.
point. It's like, so the fact that he was so good, but he wasn't a very good teacher. Some people are just naturally gifted, but in certain avenues, right? It's like you can be really good at something, but not be a good teacher at it.
I've seen some very great coaches that were marginal players at best, In fact,
exactly.
I'm thinking of one coach who, God love him, he was a horrible basketball player. He couldn't even make his JV team and was an amazing basketball coach just because he knew the X's and O's. So Neil Adams, I think he was the Barry Bonds of the artists, and they just couldn't relate. Yeah,
exactly.
All natural for him. But so, all right, one more story before we get to comic book conventions, okay? Because the Neil Adams story is quite dope. And when was it? It was, I think, around May of 2020. Jim Stranka, the CGC announced that Jim Stranka was doing a signing. One of my all-time favorite, artists. Okay, he's done such great work on Nick Fury, Captain America, the Hulk. Okay, and so many others. And I had this book, and I went out and I wanted to get a signature, and I got the classic Jim Stranka signature. I made a window bag for this, and I just gave him enough space to put it right here because I'm not the first person to have that signature placed right there. It's been done many times. You also sent a book in at that same signing. In fact, you even did a YouTube video whenever that book came back. Mm-hmm. You want to tell people what happened on that one?
So this was a good one. So same in-house signing, and I did the same thing, made the window bag, and my thing was like, hey, I've seen him sign around like the knee. He signs it a lot.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I want to be something different. I'm gonna have him have his typical signature, but I want it on his arm, like as a tattoo. I was like, hey, if you can draw it on his arm, like as a tattoo, that'd be awesome. So I'm like, oh, and I made the little cutout and I put, tattoo here and I marked it off and I actually said it. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, yeah, this will be great. And then I finally get it after, some time. and it comes in, and I unbox it. I'm like, what is this? So he basically, if you notice on above his foot, above the back foot there, he writes his Steranko name, and it's only in box, like, block letters, and it's above this back foot here. Yep. So right there, you see his name, just Steranko, above his foot. Yep. And it's just the block letters going up, right? And just, so he basically
it doesn't look anything like this signature. It looks like a third grader was printing the name Steranko,
and he just put it like above his arm right there, just like Steranko, and you're like, what? And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, there you can see it.
Yep,
there's his printed name.
Yeah, so that's basically all he did across his arm, and I mean it's on the wall here, so I can't rip it off. Maybe I should have taken it down, but yeah,
I didn't give you time.
You can see it, and it's just basically like across, like the bicep, like up, and not even across down like this. It's up here.
Oh, it's so
like,
bad.
What? So I mean, over the time, over the years, it's grown up a little bit. But when I first saw it, I was livid. I was like, what? I called CGC, and I know it was a miscommunication or whatever, but I saw them reach out to customers. When I think Clayton Crane was doing a signing, and they reached out to somebody, and they're like, oh, my wife did a mural and blah blah. And they reached out to him. It's like, so you couldn't take 5 seconds to call me and be like, hey, before he signs this, just so there's no miscommunication, what do you really want? Because we're kind of confused on the tattoo thing. That's all it took. And I was like, hey, can he sign his signature across his arm? That's it. Like, that's what I want. And maybe if I didn't make the window bag big enough, it's like, okay, well, take it out. I don't care. You can take it out so you can sign it. But I'm like, nothing. They didn't do anything. And they were just like, yeah, whatever. We signed it.
Did you want the same style that this one has?
Yeah.
You just wanted that on his shoulder.
Yeah. I wanted that across his arm. And
that would look really dope, though. I'm not gonna lie.
And I was like, oh, come on, guys. I'm like, all right. So, but yeah, it was just, I was not happy with that. And the funny thing is that, as many books, I know I'm not one of the people that sends, thousands of books every year to CGC, and I don't make them a bunch of money. But still, I'm still a customer. I've still sent plenty of books in, and they almost were like, whatever, we did the signing, we did what you asked, he signed it, what do you want? And it was like, really? That's the customer service you're gonna give me? Just like, whatever. Like, come on, guys. Like, so that rubbed me a little bit the wrong way, but they did give me a little bit of credit and stuff like that. And but it was just like,
they did?
Yeah, so they give me a credit. So I mean, I was able to get some other free books graded, but it was just the cavalier nature of them just being like, whatever. Who cares? It was just one book. Whatever. It's like, come on, guys.
It's a big company,
Yeah.
They need to be more personable. But I remember when that happened. I was out of state for a work trip, and you DM'd me, and you were asking, hey, how did that, where did your signature? Is it the way I wanted? And I was gone for 2 months, and I was like, son of a gun, I know that package is home. I was going to just open it whenever I got home. And, after the 2 months, I texted my son. I was like, hey, open that package. Take a picture of it. Because, man, I was sweating bullets there for a second. Yeah. I was like, I hope he didn't just write his name and, block print.
Yeah, I remember that. You were like, oh, my, I'm not home. I need to open this.
He did, too. He sent it to me. So I lucked out. Matt, be a pal. Cut that signal off your book and send it to Lowe's. You can just paste it.
Paste it on.
What kind of friend would I be if I don't do that? Okay.
Nice.
This guy cracks me up, man.
That's awesome.
And Freaky, how you doing there, Louie? Louie is an awesome member of this community. Just super positive, super fun. And speaking of super fun, Bulldog. Okay, yep. Tina, you threaten his life even more. Okay. But Tina had a comment up here. I forgot. Not that I forgot, but I passed it up. Let's see. Where was that?
Yeah,
Here it was. How disappointing it must have been. I could feel your disappointment there, Carlos. You were kind of bummed out about that.
It was bad, and then now it was to the point where like I was so mad. I'm pretty sure I was shaking a little bit in the video talking about it because I was just like so mad. And I think I might have had Kavi from Comics NYC. He was on with me when I did the unboxing, and
yes, he was. Yes,
there was a little. At least he was able to talk me off the ledge a little bit, so to speak, just because I was just livid. And he was like, hey, kind of maybe put it a little to perspective. He's like, well, at least it's a one of a kind. Who else has that, basically, and stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, I was like, thanks for kind of simmer me down a little bit.
Hey, Louie's channel, the URL is down below. Thank you for posting that, Trev. But here's the deal, man. While you were disappointed at the moment, even shaking, and I think you are shaking. I do remember that video. I watched that from a hotel room. You know what? We just spent the last 5 minutes talking about that story, and it is a unique, cool story. Like, you do have a one-of-a-kind signature book. You have a great story, and honestly, at the end of the day, to me, that's what's most important about comic books. Okay. Not the whatever, not the value of things, but the journey, the story of how we got there and what came to be. And I think you have a really good one, dude. Would you probably still rather have the normal signature? Probably yes, but you definitely have a unique one. Mine is cookie cutter. Mine looks like every other, Steranko signature out there.
Yeah.
But hey, listen, guys, when the OG Tina tells you to do something, you don't ask how or what. You ask how high, okay?
Yeah.
Just do it, okay?
That's
Tina, people disappear whenever they make Tina angry.
That is true.
They sure do. But all right. So I do have to show off one of my favorite comic books in the collection, okay? Yeah. I saw an Instagram post and somebody put some books up for sale, and I'm like, son of a gun, look at this. This gorgeous Medusa cover from, what year is this? 1968. Okay, July 1968. A J.R. Senior cover, but just beautiful book. But you were the one who sold me that book, and it sincerely is. Every time I see it, I really do think of you. I'm like, hey, that came from Los, and so this is, honest to gosh, one of my favorite ASM books in the collection, just because of that.
Awesome. I'm happy that it went to somebody that appreciates it, right? I mean, I know we all, we sell things, some people sell things, some people don't. But when you sell something, you at least hope that it's going somewhere where somebody appreciates it, somebody, displays it or whatever.
Yes.
And I'm, grateful that it was a true, not to say a true collector, because I don't, that term like rubs me the wrong way a little bit, because we're all collectors in one way, shape, or form. But just the pure joy that you get from it. And I'm happy that you were able to get it, even though I believe the post office did try to destroy it on you.
I forgot about that. Yes. That was the one where they played rugby with the package. And I mean, I'll have to pull it up on Instagram, and that was a couple years ago, but the package, there were holes in the package. There was bubble wrap like hanging out of it. Like, it looked like a rat chewed on it, pulled the half of the bubble wrap out, and then the other half was kicked. I was like, holy smokes. There was no way this book was not damaged. I mean, there were literal like multiple 4-inch size holes in the side of this book, and like just ripped, and it was twisted. It came out of there, man. It was so well packaged, so well packed that, I mean, it came out immaculate. Like, nothing happened to it. It was the worst treated package ever. Okay. It was like, I'm thinking there was an old commercial. I forget what luggage it was back in the 80s, but there were these gorillas back in a luggage cart just throwing it around. And it looked like exactly what happened with this.
I think that was like a Samsonite commercial or something like that. I think I remember.
You
that.
remember, yes. Yeah. But yeah, like it looked like it went through that whole treatment. But no, I want to like give you kudos on you know how to package a comic book so that it could go through that and still get to a place safely. But hey, my good buddy Dave, Genome Presents is in here. How you doing, buddy? Dave was on his channel once before, and he's always invited back. And yes, Tina, I will tell people about the violent nature of Tina. Okay. The Hulk. What did the Hulk say? You don't want to make me angry. You wouldn't like Tina when she's angry. Yes. But that's all in good fun. Anthony, he remembers the Samsonite. Yep, okay. And we have Big Joe here in the house.
What's going on, Joe?
So, anyhow, now listen, you are going to be doing most of the talking because I have a lot of questions from you. Because the truth is I've never been to a comic book convention. Maybe Toronto this year. Maybe, guys. Keep your fingers crossed.
There you go.
What's your next? Well, let's go back. What was the first con you ever went to?
Whew. I want to say my first con that I went to was a local con. I believe I went to, so it was Boston Comic Con before it changed to Boston Fan Expo. It got bought out and they changed it. But when I first went, it was Boston Comic Con. And it was back then, comic conventions were more comic centric.
Comic shows, right?
Yeah. And now they've kind of blossomed into this like all-encompassing, just basically nerddom media, where it's just like comics, anime, cosplay, it's just everything. So I feel like the space of actual like comic vendors kind of just like shrinks every year, where like the merchandise and everything else, kind of the showmanship of everything else gets bigger.
I've been hearing about that trend from pretty much everybody that says that the comic portion of comic book convention is just shrinking. Yep.
Yeah. So, and like I said, when I went, I mean, it was probably that first one 12 years ago or something like that. It's been a while from that first one. And then since then, I've gone to MegaCon, I've gone in Florida, I've gone to C2E2 in Chicago, obviously more here, as well as some more local cons, and trying to make my way to some other cons if I can. Like I still haven't been to like Big Apple Con or New York Con, just because I've heard just like the horror stories of like just how crazy and how much they just pack everybody in there. Which okay, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, I'm just like, yeah, this is so much. Thank you, Tina. I appreciate it.
But Tina's telling the truth, man. You have so much cool stuff behind you. But now, New York Comic Convention is another one that I want to get to, because New York's not that far away from me. 5.5 hour drive, I think. Mm-hmm. Not a short drive any stretch, but not a crazy long trek either. But that might be one we get to. But now, I was at one in Rhode Island. It wasn't a convention. I call it a comic book show. So I know I've said I've never been to a convention. That's true. But I have been to a handful of comic book shows, and they were small. But I felt bad because at the time I didn't know where you lived. Because not everyone on Instagram knows where everyone on Instagram lives. Okay. So you told me it wasn't far from your house. And I felt bad about that, because I was like, son of a gun, I could have reached out to you, because to me, that is the most important part of comic book collecting to me. It's the people you meet. It's the stories you have. The books. Yeah, the books are cool. Okay, but at the end of the day, like the books don't talk back to you. Like you got to meet people. And when you went to C2E2, you had met so many great people. You want to tell us about the cool people you met there?
Yeah. So I know I've been to C2E2 I want to say 3 times now. And I went last year, went this year, and then I believe the very first time I went to C2E2 was right before the pandemic. It was literally the last show before the pandemic went crazy. And
Joe has some good advice for you right here. Thanks, Joe.
Yes. Thank you, Joe. Yep, we'll definitely. Yeah, I've heard that if you go on that first day, because it's a 4-day, you get that like the almost preview day Thursday. But yeah, it definitely the craziness of that is wild.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was just awesome that I got to meet so many people that time. Common Man Andy, JP's Budget Collecting. I met them all this one time. Comic Books 84, right? He actually lives in Massachusetts, and we didn't meet each other until we both went to Chicago. So it's like we're like an hour away from each other and just never ran into each other. It's like, okay. We would go a couple of states away and then we finally meet up. But that was awesome.
That's how it works so many times.
Yeah. And just meeting Jimmy the Geek Aficionado, and building those relationships and being able to talk with other comic book people, right? Because other than my brother, there's not many people in my circle that know about comics, right? Maybe they know about movies and stuff like that, but not the actual like comic books. So to be able to communicate and have somebody understand and relate to what you're saying and like talking about, and the excitement that you get when you start talking about a book or a story that you were reading, or a Grail book that you picked up. Nobody else understands that other than comic book people. So we're the only ones that get that. And it's like when somebody picks something up that you've been searching for, and that joy where everybody else is like, okay, you got a book. All right, what's so special about this book? And you could kind of just list off all the things that is important about this book, and they're just like blank stare. But you talk to a comic book person, they're like, oh my God, you got this book, that's awesome. Like, so like you just don't get that same interaction.
No, that's probably about right. Because in my like circle, in my real world, nobody is a comic book collector. Nobody, like, they might like the movies or whatever, and they'll be polite to me because they know that I am into comic books. But yeah, like it's just a blank stare, man.
Yeah, just nothing. Everything just goes over their head, and just like I don't know what any of that means. It's like, all right.
You understand. But, hey, the Jackson Roy Kirk is giving you props here for your name dropping. But
yeah. Just
wait a second. Jackson Roy Kirk is actually nice and polite to Los. And Jackson, you've never said one nice word to me the many years that we've known each other, okay? Although you did send a really dope Conan AOK. I'll give you a little bit of props for that. But now, here is the question of the night from Lager Style. Does Los believe in short or long box storage? So what is it? So Lager, you cracked me up.
So all these, and I switched over to the BCW plastic bins just because they stack better. I know they're expensive, but I like the way they look. They stack better. But I am a short box guy. I had a few long boxes back in the day, and I'm too old for long boxes now. I can't be picking those guys up. They get heavy, and I just can't do that no more. So short box it is for me.
I'm thinking, I started collecting when I was in college, and I collected long boxes, and I was on my hands. I was doing the math. I moved those stupid things 7 times, because I made 7 moves, some in college, some whenever my wife and I first got married, we're doing our starter house and then, buying different houses. But yeah, long boxes can be rough when you got to move about 30 of those things, 40 of those things.
They get heavy. I mean, and the short boxes are not anything to sneeze at. When you fill them up, they get pretty heavy too. But a long box,
and when you're going up
and they're awkward to pick up.
When you're going up and down multiple stores or multiple floors, and you can't take more than one at a time, even if you can physically carry that weight, it's just so awkward and it's long, and you're walking down the stairs and then, and you don't want to leave that stuff in the box in the truck. So you're putting it nice and neat in your car, and you don't want to overstack it. You don't want to make it tip. So I remember making more trips than I needed to just to make sure that the books didn't get damaged.
Yeah, no, it's awful.
Liger, that was actually a really good question.
That was good.
Name dropping.
And the other side, these are graded. So I do have the graded ones and raw. So these are raw, these are graded. So they're all in the plastic bin.
Bodega, okay.
This is my brother.
Okay. I was gonna say it's great to see you. I haven't seen your name in the chat before.
Yeah, that's my brother.
I started reading it and I'm like, I don't want to read that because listen, Bodega Cats comics. I wasn't sure if you were just like ripping on Lowe's or if you knew him, but now that I know who you are, rip away. But I've missed a few. Let's go scrolling here. Where are we at? Holy smokes, I've missed quite a bunch. It just jumped on me. I'm not gonna be able to get them all, but
I know it always does.
Yeah. So if I miss it, forgive me, guys. But BCW, baby.
Some of them are behind this. So I'm still trying to figure out where to hang this guy up.
Ooh, what is that?
This was a poster that my
Harley.
Yeah. So my mom got me this from like my local LCS. So I'm just trying to figure out. I framed it, but I'm just trying to figure out where to put it. But you can see the boxes behind it, and they're stacked 3 high.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
I say that tongue in cheek. I mean, that adds up. That's a lot of comic books you have there.
Yeah, it's and like I said, most of them are full. I think some of them are, I can probably fit some more in there. But as you can see, it's not enough to fit. And there's some over here on the side as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, hey, when you're a collector, there's always something else that needs done. So Lager has something from Staples, okay, like 2 long boxes in one. Yeah, I don't want to have to carry those up and down flights of stairs. There's no...
They probably have better handles, though.
Yeah, they probably do. Actually... I have a Savage Tales, okay? And this is the one Lois, you have a YouTube channel. Did you ever notice that when you talk about a certain book, you talk about it a lot for like a few videos in a row? Like it's in your head, it keeps on popping up. But my wife was helping me move books. And the Savage Tales #1 was the first book in that box because, well, it's a #1. And she has these long fingernails, okay? Or at least she did at the time. So she like stabs it in there. And like, I'm like, whoa, you gotta like, look at that. Man, there were these indents. It never broke. It did not break the ink. But you could see where her fingernails were like gouging the cover. And I was like, oh. I had Roy Thomas sign it. And I actually thought that those things would press out. Now, before pressing was ever a thing, because this was like, honestly, God, 20 years ago we moved. Mm-hmm. I just thought, it got dinged and it's dinged forever. But whenever I found out about pressing, I'm like, these might press out. They thankfully did press out. But that's what you're talking about. Like, there's no handles on the long boxes. There's, what do you have? Like 3/8 of an inch of cardboard that you got to like balance on your fingertips. Yes, not easy to do.
No.
Los, what's your strategy for getting signatures at cons? Here's a good question.
Okay, so it all depends. So there's getting signatures that are just going to be raw signatures that you're just getting to get signed. And then there's books that you're getting graded by CGC or CBCS or whatever, and you want them to get witnessed. I tend to, most of my books, if I do get them signed, I tend to get them graded. There's some exceptions where I'll get something just signed just to get.
This guy does review.
And so there's some rare occasions that I'll get books raw signed, and then that's it. But if I'm getting it graded, which is most of the time, the first thing is go right to the CGC table, or Captured Collectibles, or whatever third party is available. Go straight to them. Go right to their witness area, and let them know who you're getting signed, which books you're getting signed. And I would say try to go to the first, the most popular artist or writer at the time, because they're probably going to have the longest line. And you want to get them out of the way as fast as possible. That's what I would say. But yeah, definitely just make a beeline to that table, that witness table, so you can go get your book signed. And try to limit, if you can, the amount of books, especially if like there's an artist that's like, hey, they only show up once in a while, but like this other artist is always there. Put that book to the side and just take that one book and just go for that, because you're just going to end up spending the entire time standing in line, waiting for a signature, and then you waste the entire con. Like I said, I normally only have one day at a con, so I'm like, I have to plan it out, get these books signed, and get the hell out of there, and then find my way to actually do some digging. So that's what I would say. Bring priority books, artists that are always there, kind of put them to the side and wait to the next con, and just go right to that CGC booth. But if you're just getting them raw and you don't mind, still go to the most popular one first, get it signed, and then keep moving on that way.
Now, you say to go the most popular, that way you get the long lines done and then they're shorter. But do some of the big artists or writers, do they get a mad rush at the beginning and then it starts to die down at the end, or is it just always busy?
Sometimes. So today, for example, I actually went to a con, and it was Wicked Comic Con. It was a 2-day event, and if you looked at the list of artists that were at this con, it boggled my mind, especially from such a smaller con. Adam Hughes was there, Mark Brooks was there, Jimmy Palmetti, Amanda Connor. There was just like so many artists there, Frank Cho, and I'm looking down the list, Jeff Loeb, and it was just like, holy crap. So I basically just was like, hey, Adam Hughes is usually a long line because he has so many variant covers. So a lot of people always kind of rush to his table. And just there's certain artists that we kind of know who's the more popular artist. And you can always do a quick browse, because most of the time, Artist Alley, you have to kind of cut through it to get to CGC or CBCS or whatever. So you can kind of see the lines, how they're forming. And see who's more popular.
Good strategy. I like right there. Yep.
So when you cut through there, you can kind of see, okay, there's 5 people standing here, 1 person here. You can kind of see who's there. And Adam Hughes, the line, it filled up pretty nicely in the beginning, but it wasn't as long as I thought it would be, and it honestly went fairly quick. And me being a bonehead, I was rushing to get in and forgot to go to the ATM machine to get cash, because they usually only take cash when you're getting a SIG.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh crap, I got to go to the ATM machine. Run to the ATM machine in the hallway. Security guard is like, hey, ATM machine is not working.
Oh, awesome. Oh.
So like, all right, well, you have to go across the street, out of the building, across the street, and go to the bank. All right, cool. Run across the street. I go inside. And they're like, "Hey, what are you doing? You can't go inside." I'm like, "Well, what's happening?" "Oh, we're shooting a video, a commercial." "Can I just use the ATM machine? Are you kidding me?" It was like, there's a real
Why didn't you
customer.
say I can be in the commercial using the ATM machine, right?
There's a real customer using the ATM machine, and you have these actors. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "I need to use it." I'm like, "Really?" So I'm like, "Okay." So I had to run to the next, go down the street to another ATM machine to finally get back in. I'm like, "Come on, guys." So I get back in, and when I got back, there was literally nobody in line for Adam Hughes.
Oh, wow.
I went right up to his desk. I was like, "Oh, okay." Not sure if it's because it was a like smaller con or more of a like a local con compared to like MegaCon or San Diego Comic Con or whatever. Those are much bigger, more people. It could have been that, but yeah, he didn't have a line, which thankfully for me, I didn't have to stay there too long. But yeah, it was just so funny. I'm like, oh, come on. It's like, of course it would be now when I really need the money.
I'm a big fan of, and some people didn't like it, but the late 90s, early 2000s Tomb Raider comic books. Love those things. And Adam Hughes did some really, really awesome covers.
Yeah.
I would love to have those signed by Adam Hughes and, display those somewhere. So, yeah, that guy, he's unique. I mean, he is, as far as like drawing women in comic books, you have Michael Turner, and then I think you have Adam Hughes. And I think those are the, and I'm sure there's other amazing ones, but I think those were the most consistent.
Yeah, my other top for women, for me anyway, is Frank Cho.
I can't argue with that.
That's me. But I have a picture of the book that I got signed by Adam Hughes, and it's triple signed. So it was signed by Adam Hughes, Amanda Conner, and Jimmy Palmiotti. And I was the first person in line for Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti. So I asked for a signature, and when you see what it is, she asked me if I want to put the signature on the leg, and she's like, I can make it as like if it was a tattoo. So it's basically
love the tattoo signatures.
Yep. So I told her, absolutely, go for it. And because it was the first one that they did, she only charged me as if I was getting a signature. And for both Amanda and Jimmy, they charged me $20, and it was getting graded. They charged me $20, and yeah. So,
that is something else, man.
So she did that, and I was like, that is awesome. So you can see it's like a heart with the arrow going through it with Amanda Conner. I was like, oh,
that is a sick book, dude. Is that still at CGC right now?
Yeah, so that was dropped off today. It's so there's an American version of this, and this is actually the German version. So yes.
That's why I highlighted that comment.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Love Frank Cho. So when I gave this to Adam Hughes to sign, you can see the frustration in his face, because this was the first cover that he submitted to DC for this book, and they rejected it.
Oh, really?
And then he submitted a couple more, and they rejected it until he did the actual cover that went through, which is the one where she actually has underwear on. This one, she has no underwear. This was actually the first one that he submitted, and they rejected it. And then years later, Germany, did this like loot chest, kind of like a loot crate kind of deal, and they used this one. And he's like, "Really? They used my first print, which DC rejected?" And he was so, you could tell he was so upset.
Did he even know that they used that cover?
Oh, but yeah, and I was like, the fact that this book was 3 times cheaper than the American version, I was like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. But yeah,
that's a nice little niche book to have in there, because I don't know anyone that knows that story. That was the original cover that he submitted that got rejected.
Yep.
And now it's a DC version, or for DC, it's a German version.
Yep.
Like, that's pretty cool, Los.
Yeah, that was it's like, and like I said, Amanda was like, because it was the first signature of the day that they were doing. I was the first one in line. She gave me that heart because somebody else went after me and got a signature, and she just put a just regular signature. I was like, yes,
Score.
I was like, yep, it's score. I got the remark. I'm like, I'm good.
And that's one of the things that makes signatures cool, because you can listen. Comic books are rare, but not that rare. But when you can get something like that, you have a one of a kind. No one else in the world has a signature just like that. Even your Hulk, okay, with the printed Steranko, okay, like there's nobody like. It's like the story of the guy who had the ASM 14 that his girlfriend trashed.
Oh
okay?
God, yeah.
We all know that story, And for people who don't know, there was a guy who was a comic book collector who his girlfriend and him had a falling out, and she just wrote all over this ASM 14, the first appearance of a Green Goblin, and just trashed him. And it's called the girlfriend copy. Okay, he submitted it to CGC, and and I think he sold it. Somebody paid a lot of money to buy it.
Yep.
So
and it's funny. It's like a 1.8 or something like that. So it's not even a high grade.
No, it's it's just a regular reader copy, if you will.
That's awesome.
But this chat has been absolutely awesome. Okay, like just great people. That's one of my favorite. We talk about cons. Okay, and I need to get to a con. Okay, I got my buddies up in the great land up north in Canada. Like, hey, get to Toronto. Toronto is not that far, about a 5-hour drive for me. And, I want to get up there, not for the convention, not for the comic books, not to, meet the celebrities. I want to hang out with my friends. That's like the cool part of it. But that's also the cool part of YouTube. Los, you and I have been talking, communicating for years. But this is the first time we've ever, well, you said it, not truly face to face, but internet face, back and forth. So, honestly, you're one of those people in this community that I absolutely look up to, that I think the world of. And it's just, this is what's cool about the comic book community. It's just meeting people, talking to them. I feel like I've learned a lot about comic book conventions, about getting signatures just in this hour. And I feel like we've had a lot of laughs doing this. So, this is the fun part. So I think I don't know, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but is that one of your favorite parts about going to a convention?
Oh, absolutely. So meeting, so I know there's one of the comments in there. Yep. It is meeting the creators of these books, and having them tell you the stories about what these books meant to them, what they were doing at the time when they created them. Absolutely. I love doing that. I love being able to talk to them about that, and meeting the community members. It's one of the things where I've been to multiple cons, and I've seen, people post some things and do things, and I never actually ran into anybody. I never, conversed with anybody until recently when I started doing the YouTube thing and stuff like that. And then I was like, hey, you know what? There's other people like me. There's other people. And, I started, meeting up with people at cons and doing things like that. And that is some of the best parts. I think one time at C2E2, when I ran into a bunch of members of the community, I got a few books signed, and I think I picked up like 1 or 2 books, and that was it. I didn't even do any digging. It was mostly just hanging out with the people, going to the yard and having some beers and just like, just shooting the crap with everybody and talking. And that was awesome. That was like the best part. And I love that. Right. And like we said before, having that interaction with people that know how your brain works in this comic book field, and being able to just converse with people and not just have them stare at you blankly and be like, wow, you're a nerd. And it's like, yeah, I am, but this is awesome.
Thank you very much. I love being what I am.
Exactly. It's like, and I love this. It's like, so, but yeah, no, definitely the people and stuff like that. And then you make those connections long term, right? Because everybody in this community is awesome. And obviously, there's always some people that like the drama and all that stuff. That's not what I'm about. But
Hey, Ronnie boy.
For the most part, everybody's just cool as hell, and they just want to talk comics and have fun. And that's what it's about. And for me, that's the most important part. Yes, we can get books and we can show off and be like, hey, this is awesome. But if there's nobody on the other side to reciprocate and be like, hey, that's a cool book, then it's almost pointless. Right? So, and not to say like showing off in like a gloating fashion, but just like saying, hey, it took me a long time to get this, or hey, I worked hard at this, or I was digging through boxes for hours to find this book, and having somebody be like, hey, I know that feeling. I do the same thing, and you get that here, which most people won't get that if they're not in the community.
Well, you hit on something really big, okay? Because whenever we show books, we're not bragging. Oh, look what I have. I mean, what it is you're proud of the work that you put into getting it, and other people get it. They, other collectors understand it. These books don't fall out of the sky, and you got to hunt for them. You got to sell other books. Like, most of us, we don't have not empty, but bottomless pockets to just pull cash out of. So the journey is something we're proud of, and you hit it right on the head. Like, we're not showing books off to brag. We're showing books off to celebrate.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I will be just as excited to see somebody else, pulling out books as I am pulling out my own books, because I get it. I know what they went through. Like, we can celebrate with other people and find just the same amount of joy, watching their collection.
Yeah. Yeah. And to the point, I mean, if this is kind of like a segue to this, with those connections, right? Me knowing Jimmy, the Geek Aficionado.
Yes.
So I've known Jimmy for a lot since 2019 or whatever it is, and I've met him a couple times when I went to C2E2. We hung out. This last time I just went last month, and he got me in to. I got there a day early. I was only going to one day, and he was like, "Hey, I got an extra ticket. What are you doing?" I got in on Friday, and I was like, "I'm not doing anything. My brother's at work." He's like, "I got an extra ticket. You want to come in?" And I was like, "Sure." So he basically got me in for a free day. And so we get in, and we're just hanging out and shooting the breeze, and it was fun to just be able to hang out with the community. And the next day when I got there, he actually helped facilitate a trade that I did that day. And I don't know if anybody's seen that video of me picking up a bigger blue chip key, but he's the one that actually helped me facilitate that trade. He was there. He had his GPA app, so he can kind of like, tell what the market is for certain books and what I was trading. And, honestly, if he wasn't there, I don't think that trade happens. So because I had that connection with him, and, I had that friendship, he was able to help me facilitate that trade. And I was able to get a bigger book that actually means something to me. And, that's this guy right here. So
that is a sweet book, and that is a great grade.
So, and it's a book that I didn't think that I would have this book in my collection. And the fact that he was there to help me, facilitate that trade, and not only make that trade, but even have them sweeten the pot and throw in an extra book.
Oh, so the first appearance of the Batman Who Laughs.
Yeah. So they threw this in as well, just to kind of, make it even, because I traded 3 books for it. And I was like, hey, sure. But like I said, without that connection and without that friendship,
people are loving what you were showing.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. I don't think that happens. That trade doesn't happen without that friendship. So, that's one of the things that also helps.
Because to make a trade, both parties have to feel like they are getting something better than what they are giving up. And that's hard to make happen. Okay. So the fact that you got 2 seriously big first appearances, in one trade, you did quite well with that.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too, like, because I traded some decent books for it. But I felt like the significance of this book compared to those other books, whether it's a variant cover or something like that, or even a newer, like more Bronze Age first appearance, it just doesn't compare to a Silver Age blue chip key of a first appearance of a major character, especially Black Panther being the first Black superhero for Marvel. I couldn't pass that up, and the fact that the dealer was willing to make that deal is again another con kind of deal. If you're trying to make a trade at a con, it could be tough sometimes, but you need to find a dealer who's willing to negotiate and work with you. There's a lot of dealers that are not willing to do that because they're looking for certain books and they're like, nah, I'm not going to do this. And that book is kind of crappy. I can't sell this book or whatever. So it's one of those things where they nitpick a little bit with the books that you bring. So if you are going, another suggestion, if you are going to trade some books, I would say they would have to be bigger books. Especially if they're going to be modern. If they're modern books, they definitely need to be bigger books, hard to find ratios or hard to find variant covers. And then if you have some older books to trade, obviously first appearances and stuff like that. But yeah, you definitely need to find that balance, but it's definitely gonna have to be some bigger books if you're gonna trade at a con.
That, and if it's at a con, you just have to know going in, you're gonna give up more than you're gonna get. Just straight value, because at the end of the day, they're business people and they got to make profit.
And that was the thing too. Like I did take a loss, but if you look at it though, it's at the same time I would have to sell all 3 of those books, whether on eBay, IG, or whatever. Who knows when they would sell? They might stick around for a while, the fees and everything. So I was like, and the fact that they threw in this other book to sweeten the pot a little bit, and it was like they gave me a little kicker, even better. It made it even easier for me.
But hey, Carlos, Joe Anachrona Comics, he turns into a pumpkin if he goes past an hour, and I turn into a pumpkin as well. So, this has actually been awesome. And buddy, I'm going to tell you, you are invited back anytime you want to be here, because just an awesome human being. The chat was off the hook. I think that the people in the chat who are not following Carlos's channel, go Tina, can you drop that link for us again? Or Trev, I think Trev did, but go sub up Los Comics. It's a great show. Go follow him on Instagram. Where can people find you on YouTube and Instagram?
Thank you. Appreciate it. So on here, my name, Los's Comic Journey. So I did change it because when I first had it, it was just Los and nobody could find me. So if you type in Los's Comic Journey, you should be able to find me now. On Instagram, it's La Sombra 2579. That is a whole nother conversation why that it's La Sombra. But I think I also have my link to my IG in my YouTube bio. So if you kind of look on that, and then I also do have a sales page or a sales account on IG, and that's Los underscore sells underscore comics.
I know that one. But looks like you're getting some subs in here. Okay,
thank you. I appreciate it.
Guys, he puts out awesome content. But Los, I want to thank you for coming on, and everyone in the chat. I'm going to say something I never say, but I hear every other YouTube say it. Hey guys, if you feel like it, go ahead and hit that thumbs up, like this channel, put a comment down below. Help out the algorithm so that more people can see this great content. That's the first time I ever did that, so I like it. But X11 Bravo showed up. Okay, great to see you. Oh, and other people subbed up.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We're gonna end this, guys. I want to say thank you, and everybody have a great night.
Everybody have a good night, guys.